I'd like to open the public hearing on the draft local solid waste management plan, LSWMP. At this time, I'll ask Tammy to read the notice of public hearing.
Notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Green County Legislature will hold a public hearing at 6:15 p.m. on Wednesday, May 19, 2021, in the office building, Legislative Chambers, 4th floor, 411 Main Street, Castle, New York, for the purpose of presenting an overview of the draft local solid waste management plan, LSWMP, after which time comments shall be heard. Green County has prepared a draft local solid waste management plan, LSWMP, identifying the path for managing solid waste generated in Green County during a 10-year planning period in an economical and environmentally sound manner that is consistent with the state solid waste management policy. A draft LSWMP for Green County has been compiled pursuant to revised Part 360 solid waste regulations as promulgated by the State of New York Department of Environmental Conservation. The public has 45 days in which to review and comment on the LSWMP. A copy of the draft LSWMP will be available at and after the public hearing for public review at the Green County Highway Department and on the Green County website, www.greengovernment.com. Written comments will be received until Saturday, July 3rd, 2021, and can be submitted to Paul Bosberg, Green County Director of Solid Waste, PO Box 485, Castle, New York 12414. Comments can also be emailed to solidwaste@discovergreen.com. April 26, 2021.
Thank you, Tammy. The purpose of this public hearing is to hear comments from the public regarding the draft local solid waste management plan, LSWMP. If there's anyone here this evening who wishes to be heard with regard to the draft local solid waste management plan, LSWMP, I would just ask you to raise your hand to be recognized, and when you stand, please state your name for the record. With that, we'll begin the hearing. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to be heard with regard to the draft local solid waste management plan, LSWMP? We have Ms. Luann Myers. Some brief overall presentation here on this.
Good evening. My name is Luann Meyer. I work for Barton LaJudas. We are the consultant that is assisting Green County with the preparation of the solid waste management plan. I was here recently, so many of you heard my spiel, but as a requirement of the Part 260 solid waste are required to do. So that is my intention, and then others can comment if they choose so. Next slide. So this is the quick agenda that I will go through, so you can go to the next one. So the goals or the purpose of the solid waste management plan is to determine what the purpose of the county and what your path for the next 10 years is related to solid waste management in the county, including that could be composting, organics, recycling, or solid waste. We want to, as the notice indicated, it needs to be an economical, environmental sound plan, serves the county and sets a framework. This is supposed to be a living, breathing document that will be reviewed over the course of the 10 years. Should changes happen, they can be made. And obviously, it needs to satisfy the DEC requirements as set in Part 360 solid waste regulations. Next slide. So historically, Green County does have a solid waste management plan. It was dated April 1993. Historically, those plans were prepared at the time when recycling became law, and New York State legislation required local governments to put together a local solid waste management plan for the goals and objectives throughout the next 20 years. So previously, it was a 20-year plan. Now they're requiring it to be a 10-year plan. The objectives are very similar, ultimately. It's about waste reduction, reuse, and recycling. Since 1993, Green County has submitted the compliance reports every 2 years, which is very important and substantial because not all counties do that. Next slide. So this just gives a rundown of the different sections of the plan. It does go into detail on all the different towns and villages, municipalities, any facilities, and not just county-owned facilities, but also private facilities that manage solid waste or recycling or any material that needs to be managed in a proper, safe disposal manner. It also goes through the administrative function, and then it lays out all the objectives. I urge everybody not to just use my quick presentation as a basis for comments. The plan is available online. It will be available online until public comment time closes, and take a look and read through it in detail. Next slide. So the actual document has about 15 different implementation schedules, actually 14 implementation schedules or implementation tasks. And they are identified really based on what the Department of Environmental Conservation is looking for in the way of improving public education and outreach, improving data collection, identifying the local law, the local solid waste management law should be reviewed and updated, given that it is quite old, being that it was early 90s when it was implemented. And the solid waste and recycling industry, even though it's a lot hasn't changed, a lot has changed. So it's important to revisit that. You can click through the next slide. This just goes through the different implementation tasks. And each of these items will have a schedule for the next 10 years of when things need to be implemented. Every 2 years, the schedule will be reviewed by solid waste staff and identify if there's anything that needs to be modified, changed, and then a compliance report will be submitted to the state. Next slide. All right, we can go to the next one. This is just through all of the implementation items. Again, they're all covered in detail in the plan itself. And the next slide shows the implementation schedule. Obviously, you can't read this, but the entire thing is in the document. As I mentioned, lays out the 10-year period, all of the implementation items. And importantly, the timeline. Obviously, we are here now to receive public comments. Public written comments can be submitted until July 3rd. Following that, we will incorporate any comments that are substantial or that make sense to change the plan if we need to. Then it will be submitted to the Department of Environmental Conservation. They'll review it, ensuring that it meets all the requirements, regulatory requirements. And at that time, unless there's some major change, then we will come back to you as the legislative body and have you approve the final local solid waste management plan that will be then enacted or implemented in solid waste department and then follow through with the goals and objectives that were stated. Next slide. As we mentioned, we can receive public comments today, and then you can also submit them by writing, which is in the notice, as well as in the plan, and they will be accepted through July 3rd. And that is kind of complete. So thank you.
Short and sweet. Thank you, Wayne. Okay, is there anyone here this evening who wishes to be heard with regard to the draft local solid waste management plan, LSWMP? One more time for good measure. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to be heard with regard to the draft local solid waste management plans,